what's up guys? My name is Zack and today I am driving a 1987 Volvo 740. Up front is a 2.3 liter inline 4 and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this Volvo 740 for two reasons. First of all, I always love 80s cars, so anytime I get the opportunity to drive an 80s car, I always jump on it. But the second reason is the fact that Volvo wasn't a very prominent name throughout the 60s and 70s here in the United States. In the 1980s, this is where we really started to see them cropping up and hitting the mainstream. And so today we get to experience that sort of boom that Volvo went through back in the 80s. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 2.3 liter inline 4. Well, surprisingly enough, there were only ever inline 4s offered here in the 740. And I say interesting because the 740 was the largest of the Volvos that you could buy at the time. Of course, this is before SUVs and vehicles like that. So it never got any interesting engine options. You could get these with a 2.3 liter turbo, but the NA is what we have today. It is an incredibly reliable engine. This was the bread and butter of the Volvo brand for decades, and there's a good reason for it. They worked incredibly well, so at least it has that going for it. But if you put your foot down, don't expect the world to rotate in reverse. Like I said, paired to it is an automatic transmission. However, you could find these in manual, and I've driven manual Volvos from this era. I've always liked their shifters, so I imagine that would be a similar case here, but the automatic is doing a fine job. Last but not least, this particular 740 is rear-wheel drive. However, in the 90s, they would switch their products to the front-wheel drive, so this was still the era of rear-wheel for the wagons. How does it feel to drive the 740? Well, it is a little bit of a regal experience. It is decently luxurious. It's nice. It handles fine. But like I said, that 2.3 liter leaves quite a bit to be desired in the power department, but that wasn't the focus of the 740, so I can't really chastise it for it. Visibility is great. It almost has cartoonishly large windows like a Pixar movie. Steering is a little bit heavy, but very characteristic of other Volvo products, so nothing new there. And the ride is very comfortable. So overall, it's been a good experience to drive the Volvo 740. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 5 gauges. Off to the left is my fuel. Then I have a clock, so not really a gauge, but you know, I have a clock. Center is the speedometer. Off to the right is the tachometer and coolant temperature. On the steering wheel, I don't actually get anything. No forward-facing buttons or anything of the sort, but off to the left, we do have a small climate control vent, headlight switch, front and rear defrosters, and this button,
this is for the power antenna.
On the door, we have manual mirrors and power windows, as well as this really interesting chunky latch to get in and out. Kind of interesting to see that. And moving into the center, we have 2 climate control vents, and the climate controls themselves, incredibly basic. The most basic climate controls you'll probably see here today, but that's how it was done in the 1980s. Off to the left of that, we do have the rear defrost, aftermarket radio, because any radio from the 80s isn't going to keep up with modern tech, cigarette lighter, cubby, an ashtray, and then the shifter. Shifter's nothing special, but it is pushed really far up against the dash, so kind of odd to see that. Heated seats down below. Volvo was one of the first brands to offer heated seats in the 1980s, so really cool to see that. Handbrake and center console, meaning there are no factory cup holders here in the 87 740. So unfortunately, yet very predictably, it fails the big friggin' bottle test. The seats are very comfortable. I've always praised Volvo in this era, whether it be the 240s or the 7 Series. The seats have always been fantastic. They are heated, and they're really, truly just lovely. I've always liked it. However, I do miss the headrests that you would find in the 240 where you could see through them. These have solid headrests, so I would have liked that little retroness, but that's okay. However, speaking of seats, we do have 2 more rows of seating, so let's go do some backseat reviews. All right, so we're in the second row of the Volvo 740 from 1987, and a couple of things to note. First of all, we get a giant light down here showing if you are unbuckled. I also get a center console, big foam brick in there. Knee room, okay. Headroom, okay, but also this is currently missing the headliner. It actually has an appointment to have the headliner put back in. And so by the time this video is actually posted on YouTube, this should actually have a headliner. But nothing really too crazy back here. It's not super spacious, even though this is the 7 series or, 700 series. It's not as crazy spacious as one would think, but it's also not bad. And it is definitely a lot better than the Volvo 240 that you could buy at the similar time. So, interesting to see, but we are not done with the seating arrangements here in the Volvo, so let's hop into the trunk. So pulling the rear tailgate up here on the Volvo 740, and we could do a quick cargo space review real quick. There it is. That's the rear cargo space, plenty of room. The family dog is gonna love it back here. Laying down back here on a road trip, I could see that. However, you don't have to lay down if you don't want to. So open this up here, and then you open it again like that, and you'll see the seats. So pull that up, and then you fold this up, and make sure not to pinch. There you go. So then you get a third row in the back of the 740. As you can see, maybe you can't see, I can't keep the tailgate down while sitting here, but it's not very comfortable back here. Okay, goodbye. So there it is, definitely a feature that you do not see in modern cars, and that's one of the big reasons I wanted to drive this Volvo 740. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I love the look of the 740. This is peak Volvo box. Everything is square, from the shape of the car to the shape of the headlights to the shape of the bumper. Rectangle, 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 hard edge, hard edge, hard edge. And I like that. I've always enjoyed that sort of styling. It just scratches that proper itch in my brain. And this is the boxiest, most Volvo-y Volvo you could ever Volvo. And I love, love, love seeing that. However, with that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving another 740 here on the channel? Well, I've driven a turbocharged 740 before, and that had a tune on it as well, and that was a bunch of fun to drive. But this was a more average Volvo, and I was excited to get behind the wheel of it because of that fact. I really enjoyed this experience. This is peak 1980s. Not only do we have mixes of tan and beige and black plastics in here, which were very characteristic of the era, but it's boxy, it's semi-minimalist. It just sort of checks all of those, well, boxes. And so I like driving average cars from the 80s too, because I think everyone sort of gets this idea that everything was vaporwave and lasers and neon grid patterns and pinks and blues. This is what a real 80s product was. This is what actual people had, not in the movies. This is what your aunt or uncle would drive to your baseball practice. And I think also it's interesting because European cars in the 70s were imports. They were gray market imports, and you would know someone with a Mercedes or a BMW, but it wasn't always super easy to get them. So after the oil crisis in the 70s, European cars started to become more popular, and this is where Volvo really got their name. These cars were amazingly reliable, they were pretty comfortable, they were affordable, and it was sort of an easy way to dip your toe into the Swedish automobile world. This gave Volvo everything that they have today, at least here in the States. Now I know, of course, Volvo was prominent in Europe years and decades before. They pioneered the seatbelt. They've always been at the forefront of safety in Europe, yes, but here in America, we didn't really know nor care about them until the 80s. Even though you could buy them before, you could find a Volvo Amazon here, an Amazon wagon. We had cars like that, but they were very niche. It was kind of an odd thing to have. This catapulted them into the mainstream and solidified them into everyone's minds. Anyone above the age of 30, if you ask them to draw a Volvo, they're going to draw this car, probably hubcaps and all. So if you like modern Volvo, or if you like the Volvo brand, you have this car and this era to say thank you to. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Jackson for letting me take out his Volvo 740. Jackson has been absolutely wonderful. We're filming 3 of his Volvos here today that you've either already seen or will see soon here on the channel. I appreciate Jackson very, very much for helping me out here today. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.